A quiet afternoon in Berlin, sometime in the mid-19th century. The room smells faintly of tobacco and polished wood, the hum of conversation blending with the click of chess pieces on a well-worn board. Two gentlemen sit opposite each other, Adolf Anderssen, already a legend of creative brilliance, and Jean Dufresne, a respected analyst and player in his own right. Both dressed impeccably, both immersed in thought, both ready to contribute to what would become one of the most sparkling demonstrations of pure attacking imagination ever recorded on a chessboard. The pieces are set. Anderssen, with the white pieces, opens the game in classical fashion, pawn to e4. A statement of intent, open lines, fighting spirit, clarity of design. Dufresne responds faithfully with pawn to e5, accepting the challenge. Knights emerge early. White's knight to f3 attacks the center, and black mirrors with knight to c6. The symmetry holds for now, both sides feeling each other out, but Anderssen soon breaks the balance, developing his bishop to c4. Smooth, elegant, targeting the tender f7 square, already a pressure point in nearly every classical opening. Dufresne mirrors again with bishop to c5, a move both solid and confident. But Anderssen is not here to trade calm positional blows. His next move electrifies the game, pawn to b4. The Evans Gambit. A bold invitation. Take my pawn and I will take your peace of mind. Dufresne accepts the offer, bishop takes b4, and the stage is set. White follows with pawn to c3. The bishop, harassed and out in the open, retreats to a5. Now Anderssen plays pawn to d4, establishing a massive center and opening paths for his pieces. Dufresne, unwilling to surrender the initiative, challenges immediately with pawn captures pawn on d4. Anderssen doesn't blink. He castles kingside, a move that feels relaxed, almost casual, yet hides deep purpose. While black grabs pawns, white quietly prepares an avalanche of activity. Dufresne pushes forward with pawn to d3, an aggressive pawn planted deep into enemy territory. It seems dangerous, but Anderssen sees beyond appearance. He moves his queen to b3, striking two targets at once, f7 and b7, while radiating energy toward the center. Dufresne blocks cleverly with queen to f6, defending f7 and counterattacking b2. Now Anderssen steps into attacking mode, pawn to e5. The white center rolls forward, pushing back the black queen, which slides to g6. That dark square queen will be both weapon and liability before long. White adds more firepower to the attack with rook to e1, lining up against the black king still stuck in the center. Black brings another defender knight to e7, shielding the king and preparing castling if time allows. But Anderssen is not here for slow play. His bishop goes to a3, a stunning developing move full of venom. That dark squared bishop eyes the vulnerable f8 square, threatening to foil any attempt to castle. Dufresne tries to deflect with pawn to b5, hitting the queen side and chasing white's queen. Anderssen calmly takes the pawn on b5 with his queen, maintaining constant tension. Black answers instantly, rook to b8, attacking the queen again. Anderssen retreats to a4, keeping the queen active along the dangerous diagonal toward e8. The pieces now hum with latent power, every file, every diagonal brimming with tactical energy. Black brings his bishop to b6, solidifying defense around c7 and d4. Anderssen develops yet another piece with knight to d2, connecting his forces. Dufresne responds with bishop to b7, reinforcing control of the light squares and preparing counterplay down the long diagonal. The dance continues. Anderssen's knight leaps to e4, centralizing and adding pressure toward f6 and g5. Dufresne shifts his queen to f5, hovering over the dark squares and eyeing the weak f2 point. But white's next move is surgical. Bishop takes pawn on d3. The pawn on d3 falls, the center opens, and suddenly the black king's shelter feels fragile. Black's queen moves to h5, possibly to swing into an attack, but Anderssen's imagination has already taken flight. His knight moves to f6 check. Black cannot capture the knight with the queen, his pieces are tangled. He instead captures the knight with pawn to f6, and white takes back with his pawn on f6. and black's G file completely open. That's the signal Anderssen has been waiting for. Rook to G8 arrives for black, trying to create counterplay, but Anderssen continues calmly with rook to D1, placing silent but deadly pressure on the central files. Black suddenly lashes out, queen takes F3. It looks strong, hitting C3 and threatening mischievous ideas. Yet in truth, it is the fatal mistake that invites a masterpiece. Anderssen replies with rook takes E7, sacrificing material to unleash chaos. Black's knight takes the rook on E7, but now Anderssen plays queen takes D7, check. The king is forced to D7, trying to wriggle free. The next sequence is pure inspiration. Bishop to F5, check. The king steps to E8. Bishop to D7, check again. The black king must slide to F8. And then, calmly, almost tenderly, bishop takes E7, checkmate. The board freezes. Every line of flight for the black king is sealed by perfect coordination. The rooks, bishops, and queen all play their part in a choreography so precise it feels inevitable, yet so imaginative it feels divine. Dufresne smiles, acknowledging the artistry. Anderssen's attack had been a painting in motion, completed with brushstrokes of light and clarity. This was not simply a victory, it was a declaration. Anderssen had shown that chess could be poetry, that calculation could merge with beauty, and that risk, when guided by genius, could illuminate the entire board. For those watching, the lesson was timeless. Never mistake a sacrifice for recklessness. Behind every daring move lies vision, geometry, and the quiet confidence of understanding how forces will converge. Anderssen had begun the game by giving away a pawn. He ended it by creating one of the most harmonious checkmates ever conceived. Even centuries later, this game still feels alive. The Evans Gambit, once considered a mere curiosity, became immortalized through this very battle. The attack against Dufresne remains a study in courage, how to trust one's intuition even when the numbers seem against you. Each move flows into the next, each piece steps into purpose, and in the final moment, everything aligns in radiant symmetry. The white pieces form a net around the black king, and what began with a single pawn thrust on b4 ends as a thunderclap of artistry. Adolf Anderssen would come to be remembered as the greatest romantic player of his time. His games shimmered with creative fire, his combinations echoed through generations, inspiring both amateurs and grandmasters alike to see chess not only as competition but as creation. Jean Dufresne, skillful and dignified in defeat, preserved this encounter for the record books, understanding that sometimes history favors the artist as much as the victor, and so, the evergreen melody of this game plays on in classrooms, in tournaments, in whispered retellings between friends. Each retelling reveals something new: the courage of sacrifice, the precision of harmony, and the quiet triumph of beauty over mere calculation. That is the essence of Anderssen versus Dufresne, a timeless masterpiece where every move sings, where every risk blooms into brilliance, and where a single game of chess transcends the boundaries of time, becoming forever known as the Evergreen Game.